We're joined by local attorney Edwin Byrd, who worked on the city's water department billing lawsuit. I assume you did the work for the city as opposed to the city attorney's office handling it, correct?
Well, we worked together.
Okay. The ruling yesterday from Judge Lafitte essentially is all on the city's side. Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
Tell us what he ruled. Just give us the specifics.
The court addressed for the first time the information that the plaintiffs had provided to the city and whether that entitled them to any type of payment by the city, and determined that it was not confidential information and that it did not require that the city compensate.
Pardon me, Mr. Edwin, we were talking a while ago. Could you define for us what confidential information is, and or at least what Messrs. Pernisi and Wainwright claimed it was?
Well, there was the disclosure that was made to the city of this billing issue was done in accordance with an agreement that was entered where they were providing the city with this information, and it included a definition of confidential information that was information that the city did not have possession of previously. And in this case, they were disclosing that this ordinance wasn't being applied correctly, and the court determined that was not what that type of...
So pardon me, just so I understand, in this case, confidential information would be defined as something that the city could not ever have gotten on their own. Do I have that right?
Well, it's a little more narrow. It was in the way that the agreement was. It was in the possession of the city, and there was evidence of communications between the water department and the software company that was implementing the tier system that confirmed that this was not something that was confidential information as that definition was used.
Let me ask you this, and this is so complicated. It's hard to describe just to the regular folk, and I consider myself one. The Pernisi, they were asking for nearly $2 million from the city for disclosing this information. Why? Well, I mean, if I found out something that I think could help my city, I'd say, hey, here's some info you guys might need. This could help save you some money. Why were they asking for money? What was the purpose?
Well, I think that's an issue, obviously, that we addressed that wasn't really pertinent to what this court was addressing, but it was just an effort to benefit from that discovery, and I think they didn't disclose it for a good while, and but when they did, it was something that alerted the city that there was some problem in the software that should have been addressed by the software company and hadn't been. So that essentially was it. It was a plan that they had to try to get some percentage of additional income, or if not, then some type of penalty if the city applied its ordinance.
We're talking with Edwin Byrd, who represented the city in the water lawsuit. Let me ask you this, and everybody wants to know. Scott Pernisi had inside information. How'd he get it? Where'd he get it? He doesn't work for the city. I can't go get all this information. A lot of people want to know who handed all this to him.
Well, there was testimony that he maintains that he reviewed water bills of friends and family and coworkers and different people, and that based on his review of the water bill was able to determine how certain of these tiers were not being applied correctly, and at this point, I really don't want to speculate on anything further. That was his testimony.
Did you in court reject that, and was that part of your case? Did you kind of go, really, Judge, really?
It really never had to be addressed. This was a purely legal issue addressing whether, even if you assumed as true what they were alleging, is that something that was that they were entitled to payment for. And so we really didn't have to get into that with the court at this stage. The court looked at the agreement and at the evidence of what was disclosed allegedly and what, without regard to how it was obtained, and then what information was already in place.
Both sides obviously have the right to appeal. Do you anticipate that from the Pernisi side?
I really don't know. I think lots of appeals are done, and can't really think what. I think we would have we're pretty confident about this issue and have been from the get-go, so I can't really, it'd be speculative as to whether they would go to that expense.
From your standpoint, then, this should put a wrap on this. You're hopeful.
Yeah, I definitely am. With respect to these persons, there's still some litigation with the software company that was to be implementing changes associated with this, and that's not finished yet. So hopefully, but with respect to the Sand Beach and these individuals, I think that other than appeals would be the other activity is pretty much done.
And this essentially, no more impact on local residents. All the bills have been corrected. Everything is on track now to be right, correct?
As far as I know now, I'm not in the water department, but I think with respect to what we were addressing with this issue, we're comfortable that everything is.
And how long have you been working on this case, and how expensive are you, Mr. Byrd? The question is, how much did this whole mess cost the city?
With this thing still pending, it's still, privileged communications, I guess, with the client as to what we're paid, but it's not inexpensive. It's just an unfortunate part of the world we live in. So the case was filed back in October, I believe, is when this one was filed, and so relative to the world of litigation, it's pretty quick.
So probably at least more than 20 billing hours.
I would agree with that.
Mr. Edwin, thank you for your time very much. We appreciate you jumping in this morning for us.
Thank you, sir.